Everlost really came about when I had seen this show about near-death experiences. And they had, you know, whenever they have these shows, they always have the dramatic recreation of what happened. And this particular one, a woman was talking about how she was going down the tunnel towards the light, and they showed this woman running in slow motion down a tunnel towards the light. And in the back of my mind I thought, well, what if she trips over her own shoelaces? You know, it was really just a joke, but then I thought, well, that's an interesting idea. What if you're on your way to that light at the end of the tunnel, at the end of your life, and you don't make it? Where do you end up? And I thought, well, what if it's two kids who have, say, been in a head-on collision, and while they're both rushing down that tunnel, they bump into each other, knock each other out of the tunnel, and find themselves in this world halfway between life and death. And that's where the initial inspiration came from. When I first started Everlost, I didn't think of it as a trilogy until I was about 50 pages into it, and then I realized that this world was so vast and there was so much story to tell that I really wasn't able to tell it in a single book. So right around page 50 I came to the realization that I have to break this up into a trilogy. But throughout the process, new characters came about, the stories started taking different turns, and although roughly the stories pretty much ended up where I wanted them to go, their path getting there was very different, and I discovered some fascinating characters and situations along the way. I would say that the broad appeal of the Skinjacker trilogy and how it's being read by teens and kids as well as adults really comes from the fact that they are written at an adult level. I mean, they're written for everyone to be able to appreciate, whether you're young, whether you're older. There's a lot of depth to them. They're filled with a lot of action and adventure, you know, to keep my imagination going, but also filled with a lot of heart and a lot of questions. I mean, in all of the things that I write, I like to pose very difficult questions. Don't necessarily like to give the answers to those questions. The way that I see it, the only questions worth asking are the ones that don't have simple answers. And I like to pose the questions. So for me, it's not a matter of coming up with all the answers in the world, but really coming up with really interesting and unique ways of asking the important questions. But I'm always getting letters and emails from kids talking about how the characters really stand out for them, how they identify with them. The favorite thing, though, that I like to hear from kids, and I hear quite a lot, is when a student will come up to me and say, I never liked reading until I read Everlost, or I never liked reading until I read Unwind or Full Tilt. And hearing that just makes me realize why I do what I do.